I spent most of my childhood in libraries, whether it was going to the public library, whether it was my school library, or going to visit my mother, who is an elementary school reading teacher, and hanging out in that library. So I've always been surrounded by books. And what I always loved about that was whatever I wanted to read about, I could just reach out and touch. And honestly, maybe it's just me, but I loved just the actual physical feeling of being in the library, of having a book in my hand, the smell of the book. An e-reader just doesn't quite have the same experience as actually sitting someplace where you can just reach out and touch whatever you want. And I learned from a very young age how to use the Dewey Decimal System, how to find what I wanted to read, how to actually approach a book, and just even being able to talk to the librarians and even ask a simple question like, "Hey, I'm looking for a book on whatever the subject was I was interested in." Mainly research. It's easy to sort of do superficial research on the internet. Sometimes you need to go out and you need to find the actual books. Sometimes you need to go to very specialized libraries. And sometimes it's fun just to sort of go and, see what's out and what's coming out. In some ways, it's actually easier to figure that out going to a library than it is going to the bookstore. Being taken to it. There's something about the community of reading that a library fosters that as a kid I just loved. I'm against it. I think that it's an important community resource. Look, books are probably more available and cheaper than they've ever been, but there are still people who can't afford to go out and spend $20 on a hardcover or spend $6 on a paperback, who don't have the resources to go out and find something that interests them. And one of the great things about reading is that if you're doing it right, reading begets more reading. And the wonderful thing about a library is you can finish one book and say, wow, that intrigues me in some other subject, and you can go off and get another book about it. And it makes learning and information free. Number one, as a parent, I have a responsibility to sit down with my kids and know what he's going to be involved with, whether he's reading it, watching it, or whatever. Number two, I think the kids are actually pretty good judges of what they're capable of handling and what they're capable of dealing with. And that if you create an environment where they feel comfortable saying, hey, I have a question about this thing that might be uncomfortable, that it's actually better for dealing with the topics that might be controversial. The only good thing that comes out of it is that every time somebody tries to censor a book, it raises awareness of that book, which means that more people are going to read it.